in this, let's bring in trial attorney Rachel Self and defense attorney and former prosecutor David Schwartz. So, Rachel, I will start with you. House Dems inviting the White House to take part in next week's hearings. All those signs that the invitation will be turned down. Should the White House allow witnesses favorable to the president to testify before the Judiciary Committee?
Well, at this point, the facts really aren't in dispute here. This isn't a case that's going to turn on the facts. And the last time that the White House came out with rebuttal evidence is when we received that transcript that actually wound up really sinking the president and his story that there wasn't any story there, right? So, from a strategical perspective, when you're a lawyer and when you're looking at this stuff, if this were a criminal case, you would be thinking, what do I have to gain by putting witnesses on the stand? What are they going to do for me? And in this particular instance, I can see very little value to the president by trying to put on a case here. This thing's not necessarily going to turn on any sort of great revelation in the facts. So delay is always the friend of the criminal defendant. To continue to delay here for them, you know, witnesses can disappear. Minds can get foggier. If you're considering this like you would a criminal case and the president is the defendant in the case, there really doesn't appear to be a lot to gain by him participating.
David, explain the constitutional guidelines or valid legal reasons for not allowing White House witnesses to testify.
Well, I mean, certainly the president has constitutional rights the same way everyone else has constitutional rights. And in this case, I actually think that the president should have his attorney present to challenge all the witnesses that are going to be testifying. The president has a Sixth Amendment right to challenge witnesses, to cross-examine witnesses, and I believe he should take advantage of every legal opportunity available to the president. Now, I agree with Rachel. You may not want to put on a case. In fact, many defendants don't put on a case. So that may be a strategic reason not to put on a case. However, have your counsel there. I think that's an important fact in this case, and challenge those witnesses.
But counsel but don't present witnesses is what you're saying, because I mean, I'm asking you, David, because the White House, the president himself and the House Republicans have been crying foul all along, right, claiming without testimony from their own witnesses, the impeachment process is a sham.
Well, look, if they have the opportunity to put on witnesses, then they have the opportunity to put on witnesses. That is an argument. They are claiming a sham. However, I think they should go with the strategy of challenging the witnesses that are going to be testifying, because it becomes a question whether or not there were high crimes and misdemeanors committed by the president. And I think they should challenge those witnesses to the fullest extent, the same way they're challenging the subpoenas. It's just good lawyering to do so at this point.
All right. Well, listen,
but at this point, I don't know that the president's necessarily concerned with good lawyering, right? Like you and I, if we were actually taking this seriously and handling it as we would a case, we would actually take it very seriously and not just cry sham. But in this particular instance, he's much more concerned with the court of public opinion than he is what ultimately the decision's going to be made initially on the impeachment and whether or not to impeach. And definition of high crimes and misdemeanors, it doesn't even exist. So it's a very interesting thing as to whether or not anybody believes that the public integrity was violated by the choices this president made.
I want to jump in.
And that's going to be interesting.
Excuse me, Rachel. I want to jump in because you mentioned the court of public opinion, and I want to show a poll from Washington Post, ABC News, a poll on the impeachment gender gap. 42% of the men polled support impeachment, with 54% opposed to it. And when you look at the women, 56% support impeaching President Trump versus 40% of women who are against impeachment. Quickly, Rachel, why the lopsided response? And then you, David, 20 seconds each, please.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, you can make light of it and you could say, well, women are more used to dealing with petulant children and disciplining them, right? Yeah. And they can spot a liar a mile away because of that. But if you look at it seriously, the gender gap has always existed along party lines. And so in this particular instance, since Democrats are more interested in impeachment than Republicans, then that's what makes the most sense to explain that gap.
David, give me 15, please.
Look, it's hard to explain the gap, but certainly the president has always appealed to men more than women. He does have a woman problem, this president, and he needs to appeal to women, but certainly his personality, his policies appeal more to men.
Thank you, both of you, David Schwartz and Rachel Self. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Nice to see you both.
And speaking, same here.